We're here at the corner of High and Broadway in Lexington, Kentucky on a Thursday afternoon at about 8 p.m. And I'm going to do a video for the next 20 or so minutes where you guys just get to walk with me and we're going to experience High Street together. So we'll start here with the sideshow that is multiple policemen in the road, and everyone up here is using this as a great opportunity to watch the police. And the police are doing all kinds of neat road blocking maneuvers here. But that's not what we're here to see. We're here to see the pedestrian experience, if you will. So this is a decent corner. We've got the Hyatt, we've got the Hilton right over here, the Hyatt, and the Lex Live, which is a Gregorian theater, which has movie theaters and nice some bars and sports bars and bowling lanes and everything, bowling alley. So yeah, it's all right. It's somewhat controversial because they knocked down a kind of nice looking old bank that people wanted to save because of how cool it looked and the architectural significance of it. But in the end, it did get torn down, unfortunately, through a series of unfortunate events. But needless to say, mixed feelings about Lex Live, but it's reasonable. And it is right here across from Rupp Arena, which is just down the street past the Hyatt. And then a whole new district is going to be built just past Rupp Arena, or just past Lex Live, across from Rupp Arena, with housing and retail and all kinds of mixed development on what is currently a surface parking lot. Then it will be turned into a parking garage. But then we turn to what I would say is a bad corner right here on the other side of this policeman, which is just an empty lot. It's been parking for a long time. It's just a gravel parking lot and generally only used for special events that are happening at Rupp Arena. Nobody really uses it otherwise. And then over this way, we have the Kincaid office towers, which are famous from the movie Steel and other things. And the entrance to their parking garage, as well as the drive-through bank teller lanes. So then across the street, we've got some at least historic looking buildings. I think they're probably historic buildings. I definitely see Bluegrass Trust on them. This next one, you can see there's a little bit of an apartment built onto the back of it. But reasonable use, I would say. I'm sure there used to be a building right here too. There's a nice walkway up to what used to be the front door. I don't remember what happened to that building, but I'm sure that whoever tore that one down probably wanted to tear this one down too. There at one time was a plan to build a multi-theater movie complex here on this corner instead of that corner. That corner used to also just be a small parking lot, but there was a plan to build a movie complex, entertainment complex here. That fell through numerous times, and some of these buildings remain standing. I believe these buildings are mostly professional offices now. They're not personal residences or anything like that. Again, this is a Thursday night, 8:02 p.m. or so, here in the summertime in Lexington. So University of Kentucky is not in session, so we don't have a lot of students. And Thursday Night Live is going on, or maybe just ended 2 minutes ago, over at the Fifth Third Pavilion and what used to be Cheapside Park. This red building here is another Bluegrass Trust building. And then across the street, we start getting into surface parking. So everybody's favorite thing is surface parking. This first surface parking lot here, I believe, belongs to the church on the next corner, And this parking lot, which is the upper level of a parking garage, belongs to that office building right there. This one is the one that collapsed a year or two ago in the winter, and has been rebuilt. So unfortunately, and that's my commentary, unfortunately, it was replaced with a similar parking garage without any kind of building on top of it. So from High Street here, it looks like surface parking, even though it's technically the top level of a parking garage. Possibly only 2 levels of the parking garage. However, across the street here is definitely just simple surface parking. And I believe that is for, like I said, this church here on the corner. But there's a few things I want to pay attention to on this walk, and that is the street parking usage, the surface parking usage. Yes, First United Methodist Church High Street campus parking right there. Okay, so that answers that for sure. And then these are the First United Methodist buildings here. So, like I was saying, I want to pay attention to the traffic volume here on June 24th, 2026. Like I said, a little after 8 p.m. I want to pay attention to the pedestrian volume. So how many people do we see walking? I'm going to look around, look back towards Rep Arena and Lex Live. Got nobody. Got nobody on the other side either. And we might see some people walking back from Thursday Night Live here on Upper and Limestone. Surface parking usage, street parking usage, and pedestrians, and then the amount of surface parking that there is along this route, which is why I call this a huge missed opportunity. This section of downtown, I personally feel like could be so much better. I will give them this. We have nice wide sidewalks, and I will give them a 75% passing grade, but only barely, on the bike lanes, when I'll show you why right now. That is, paint is not infrastructure bike lane, but at least it's a bike lane. And they've just repaved this because they tore the heck out of it, putting in new water pipes. However, this block between Upper and Limestone, for one block only, we get the exciting lack of a bike lane. For one block only. You can see in the distance there's a bike lane, and that goes all the way to Woodland Avenue. Then we get here to Limestone, and for one block up until Upper Street, no bike lane, and then the bike lane reappears. So why in the world is there no bike lane on this one stretch of road, this one block downtown? That, I don't know, maybe it's just, maybe I should knock them down from a 75 to a 65, nearly failing grade, because that seems to me to be ridiculous. Now, this corner here, this is a pretty major corner. So we started at a very major corner of High Street and Broadway, and one of the 4 corners was just a gravel lot that's sometimes used for parking. Now on this corner, which is Upper and High Street, we have one corner of the lot. This just looks like a grass lot. This used to be a building that was about 3 stories tall and was old and hasn't been used in quite a long time. The developer wanted to build a 6-story building here, with the first story being retail that faced High Street. That seems to be taller than the neighboring buildings for sure, but 6 stories isn't the end of the world. It's pretty reasonable, especially with it going up the hill like this. It would probably feel like a 5-story building, but the neighbors rejected that, and Everybody was mad, and so the developer came back and said, okay, we'll make it 5 stories and not have any retail. So the current plan for the building that supposedly is going to go in this corner is a 5-story building, all well with no street-facing retail. I don't know if it's going to be residential or offices. Across from that, still at the corner of High and Upper, it's more surface parking. That's right, everybody. This is probably surface parking for this building, office building right there. Surface parking nonetheless, not my favorite. All right, continuing. We continue past the block that may someday be developed into a 5-story building. That was years ago, by the way. They probably only tore the building down a year ago. It sat there empty for a long time. Okay, so we are continuing, and what do we have here on the left? Why, it's more parking. And I think we can call this surface parking as well. I do not believe that there's a parking garage underneath it. So we got more parking there. We have more parking here. And then across the street, we have some historic looking buildings. Notable. This gray building here recently converted into residential. This used to be an office building. They added balconies on both sides, added a fancy restaurant on the top floor, extended the top a little bit for a top seating deck, it looks like. Possibly, it looks like a pool deck, but I don't think there's a pool up there. However, there is a pool on top of the Marriott over there. And turn this into residential. So that is probably more productive use for that building down here, right as it stands right now. All right, we've got surface parking on across the street. We have some historic looking buildings. And in fact, this one here, this blue-gray one on the corner is the Jefferson Davis, everybody's favorite guy, Jefferson Davis building. Used to be called the Jefferson Davis Inn before a suspicious fire. Okay. Proceeding. I would consider this to be a major downtown Lexington intersection. We are at the corner of Limestone and High Street. South Limestone here because it changes down at Main Street from north to south. So we've got South Limestone. Here we have a tattoo parlor that used to be an Indian restaurant in the building there. We've got a gentleman asking people in cars for money, about to fall into the road. And there's some bars. There's some bars just past him. You can see the red umbrellas and stuff. So there's some bars with some outside sidewalk seating there. Across the street, this used to be a dance club called Sound Bar. And then after that, it was a VIP smoke shop. The building to its right, the red building, and the little red building that is short is past it. That's the Hannah's on Lime building, and the building next to Hannah's on Lime, as well as this VIP building here, or the Soundbar building. Those are owned by the church that we're getting ready to see, and they want to tear these down. They are vacant right now. The Hannah's on Lime building has been vacant for quite a while. We just found out, really, the public kind of just found out that the church owns those. I don't think it was common knowledge that the church owns them. But they do. And so I think they probably bought this Soundbar building. I don't think the church has owned that for very long. But in any case, they want to tear these down and turn it into a park. So we have over there, we have some surface parking and probably future grass right here on one of the busiest, I'd say 8 intersections of Lexington, South Limestone and High Street. All right. Across the street, we have the Bank of the Bluegrass. This has been here for a very long time, and it's fine. Downtown businesses, great. But next to it, it's everybody's favorite, it's surface parking. Now, clearly you have to have some parking for these buildings, especially buildings like this that might have customers coming. You have to have some. The question, I think, is how much. as we look across the street at a big parking lot. A big surface parking lot, which is, I'm going to swing us back over here, across from another surface parking lot. This one might possibly be a parking garage with a level below it, given that there are suspicious stairs down right here. I think there's probably a downstairs level. This is probably the top floor of a parking garage, but it looks like surface parking from High Street. This over here is absolutely surface parking. And you can see at 8 at night, not in high demand. Not in high demand at all. So I think that that's parking for this next building, which is the church. The people that own the Sound Bar building and the Hannah's Online building right there. I think that that's all this continuous strip of land, and it's all owned by this church here that's at the corner of Martin Luther King and High Street. Across from the Transit Center. This is the Lexington Transit Center, run by LexPark, which is a public-private partnership with Lexington. It's at least 3 stories, probably 4. And this parking garage was constructed in order to have a building built on top of it. But anytime anyone has suggested building a building on top of it, they scream and cry that they will lose 120 parking places, even though the building was literally designed to have a building on top of it in the future. This is another location where the Krikorian, the Lex Live people, had previously proposed building a theater complex. So he tried a few times. He tried on Angliana, he tried here at the Transit Center, and then eventually tried there at the corner of Broadway and High Street, where he eventually actually built Lex Live. So, Transit Center is mostly a parking garage for city employees with a little bus section down on Vine Street side. So now we come up on, is it Calvary Baptist Church? Memory is failing. I believe it's Calvary Baptist Church. Yes, Calvary Baptist Church, who owns all this land between Martin Luther King and Limestone along High Street. So Calvary Baptist, I would say, certain times of the week, it's probably pretty busy. Other times of the week, like right now, not busy at all. So remember, we're looking at street parking usage, pedestrians, and surface parking usage. Now, you might say with all this surface parking, for instance, the Lexington Transit Center to my left, then why, pray tell, would you need a row of parking, which is all along half of this block between MLK and Limestone, as well as a nice AC public charger? Well, I don't know. Maybe there's a few times when people need to park on the road here and they can't park at the church or the transit center because it's cheaper. Maybe the parking garages aren't free at night and the road street parking is free at night after 7. So yeah, this is free street parking right now, not in use. And Thursday Night Live, literally just 3 blocks away from us right now. All right, as I swing you around and make you seasick, we are crossing MLK and looking towards campus on MLK at another surface parking lot. Now this one is owned by the University of Kentucky, and they tore some buildings down years ago in order to turn it into surface parking. This is just an E-lot for employees of UK, so it's only used during the day and only really mostly while school is in session. So in the summer, it's not usually this empty, but during the daytime, but it's still relatively empty. We are still across the street from the second part of the transit center parking garage. So MLK kind of splits the transit center in half. We then have this used to charge buses. There was a no contact or contact charger at the top. Truck hit it, broke it, and the company that makes it was out of business or something. So they intend to never fix this. A question I would have is why don't they take it out? I don't know, but at least it's better than it was. It used to just be a bunch of trash bags up there. It looked terrible. UK lots over here, University of Kentucky parking lots. We are now to Lexington Avenue, where a block away, they're starting to demolish houses. As you've seen in the other video, you can see, if I can zoom, that chain link fence right there. That's the beginning of where the demolition is taking place. And so all of those buildings on the right side will be demolished very soon. They have started taking those down. Meanwhile, this is the United States Post Office. And the word is that the land that the post office building is on has also been sold. I do not know to whom or what their plans are. But it's not, strangely, it is not owned by the United States Postal Service. All right, we are past the transit center on my left, and we've got the post office over here on my right with some people sleeping on the front walkway of it. We do have a bit of a homeless problem in Lexington, and anywhere there's cover, it is sprinkling, so some people are looking for cover right now. Okay, so we're looking on the left. On the right here, this is Hagerman. Um, Hagerman dead ends now, or doesn't dead end. It goes into the new Maxwell development on East Maxwell. And then over here on the right, we've got some businesses that do not front onto Vine Street. They front onto High Street up here. Here's Hagerman. You can see the Maxwell development down at the end. That's going to be 6 stories, and you can see that's the entrance to the parking garage that's built underneath the Maxwell. This is Hagerman Court. There are houses on both sides. There's no garages to those houses, so everybody does street parking there. But speaking of street parking, here we are again, looking at street parking on High Street and thinking, why is there so much street parking right here in front of the Y? There's a parking lot for the Y on both sides of it. So why do we need the street parking? Across the street, we have law offices and other businesses and some apartments, to be honest, that all have their own parking lots. Now the Y here, this is sold. This is the Y here as well. That's racquetball courts there, and this is the main Y, and then the pool's in the back. This has all been sold and will be student housing. There's not a timeline on that, but soon. Then we start to get into our kind of rundown looking apartments over here on the other side of High Street. But thankfully, we still do have a bike lane on this part and street parking, which again, questionable. This is also the Y's parking lot, so what's the street parking for? Swing it around here to the other side of the street and looking at these apartment buildings and office buildings. So this is an office building, needs a little TLC. That's an apartment building, and I think we're apartment buildings all the way to the end on that side. We've got more surface parking here that's not the Y's, and more surface parking there that is the Y's, and then of course the surface parking on the other side of the Y. But you can see there is entrance there to the parking lot behind these apartment buildings. So I do not believe that these residents are out here parking on the street. This building, which used to look really nice, is starting to show signs of disrepair, unfortunately. It's a nice looking building. It used to be a nice looking building, and it is now for sale. And you have to ask yourself that, is it for sale because the Y next door has been sold and will be student housing? We don't know yet how tall that student housing is going to be. It could be 6 floors and up. I doubt it will be anything shorter than 6 floors. Got another surface parking lot here past this building, which is for sale. And then we are across the street from an apartment which has its own parking lot. And then on the corner here is more parking, and that's for this little office building here. It used to be a Raising Cane's franchisee building, and is now part of Gray Construction. So there you have it. We've walked from Broadway to Rose down High Street, as you can see, on a Thursday night at 8 p.m. Not super busy here in the summer. There's nothing going on at Rep Arena, and nothing going on at those churches. So pretty empty. I think we saw 3 other people walking, and most of the street parking was empty. We'll end on a slightly high note, I guess. Right here at the corner of High and Rose, this building, which used to be High and Rose, that's an office building now. And then the little stone building next to it was a mechanic for a long time. Perfect Auto. That's an auto detailing place now, and that is new. And the nice thing is that this row of businesses along Rose Street has long just been kind of gross, blacked out windows and random garage doors. And it looks like someone is working on this building here to make it look nicer. They've replaced the garage door on the right with a nice new garage door, and you can see that they've redone the inside. So I would expect this to start looking nicer here soon. Notably, there's no street parking on this side, so I guess whatever business goes there will likely fail, because clearly street parking is the only thing that keeps things in business in Lexington. All right, I'm going to call it there. Like I said, about 20 minutes, and it looks more like 30. Exciting times for us all here in Lexington as we see what happens as buildings are being demolished and transition is happening for infill development. And as you saw on High Street, a lot of street parking. Until next time.